So, you know me, I overthought it so much and then got like caught up in the perfectionism and the, just getting stuck. And that's why it took me this long to start this series. But let's get into it, bestie. Okay, I made some notes and stuff, but I figured, part of what I was overthinking is like where to start. And I couldn't figure out where to start until I realized I should just start at the beginning of what pulled me in to all of it, which was Genesis 6, which I know you've heard me talk about before, but we'll just do like kind of a recap here. So it's one of the chapters that people usually skip because it's kind of weird. It's just weird. It's hard to grasp with our human brains. But it starts talking about the sons of God marrying the daughters of men. And then suddenly there's these giants called the Nephilim, and they're running around and like kind of in charge of a lot of things, like wreaking havoc. Like they are teaching them things they're not supposed to know. They are evil. They are their pagan rituals of like sacrificing children and just lots of stuff. If you know the Hebrew to it, which is B'nai Ha-Elohim, which means sons of God, but Elohim is one of those words that it's translated to like kind of any spiritual being, but not just God himself. It's not the God that we worship. We worship Yahweh, and he is like the Elohim. But this sons of God is like, they're not human sons. They were divine beings. I like to think of it all as like we are one big cosmic family with God, right? So, he created the heavens and the earth and the angels and everything, but the angels and stuff were created far before we were. And Satan had an issue and was taken out of heaven, kicked out of heaven, and he took a third of the angels with him. So in that process, we then were created, and we're sort of like the little sibling, and the older sibling, Satan, is very jealous of us and the attention and the love that we've got from Yahweh. And so it's throughout the whole Bible, and it's only really I had like a moment of epiphany this morning, honestly, about something. About through the Bible, there's really this theme of like the older sibling being jealous of the younger sibling, or having issues with the benefits or whatever that the younger sibling has gained. And it's fascinating when I realize that connection. Anyway, I know I'm gonna go off on these tangents. So anyway, like they're not human sons, they were God's angels, like whatever else he created prior to us, which we don't need to know about, because like the Bible is just the story of humanity and God's relationship with us. So I like to think of them as like another kind of, they're like our older cosmic siblings. And so they crossed a major boundary. Like, not only did Satan fall from heaven because he decided he wanted to be worshipped, and he thought that he was just as special, if not more special, than Yahweh himself. But when they fell, when they came down, they took these human wives, and it was in exchange for knowledge. Like, they gave human beings the knowledge of weaponry, the knowledge of pharmaceutical stuff. I forget the Hebrew word for that, but it's all in there, and it's so cool. Like, we've talked about it being like part of the reason for the flood, because if you go back to Genesis 3, right after Eve eats the apple and God realizes what's been done, and he says to the devil, he gives him this curse that says, like, you are forced to crawl through the dust, which I just realized we are created through the dust, like in the Bible. So that was like a whole nother thing that I'm going to dive into. And then he says, and the woman will bear a seed, which is weird because women don't have seeds. If you really think about the technicalities behind it, like, women aren't the seed, but he says the woman will have a seed that will strike the serpent on the head. The serpent will strike the heel of this seed, this man, but it's not deadly damage, right? So, but the seed will strike the serpent down. Satan realizes like he has to taint the bloodline. He wants to try to prevent this particular seed from being able to come into play, because he knows that if he and all of his little buddies that fell, if they can mate with these women and create these half breeds, he knows that God would not use one of them. Like, he's thinking that he would be able to inherit everything, because man and women, we are the heirs to all of God's kingdom, not Satan, who came before us. Older sibling jealous of younger sibling. Okay. So like obviously we've talked about how that's part of the flood, like why the flood happens. Human beings had become so corrupt, spiritually, genetically, not just morally. And so God was like, reset, time to reset it. And then the same rebellion keeps showing up later in different names, the same spirit behind. Basically, we have this spiritual family, the divine beings, angels, all that jazz. And then we've got the earthly family, which is us, okay? And we are made in God's image. We're the only ones made in God's image to represent him on earth and to share his love and grace and all that. So when some of those like higher beings fell and rebelled, the jealousy that they had, like they could not stand that God gave us the role of ruling creation, because that's what it is. In Genesis 1, maybe 2, I think it's Genesis 1 though, he gives us the control of the world. Like the world is ours. It's ours to maintain, ours to inherit, and Satan does not like that. So anyway, that's basically why Jesus comes, because he's awesome. But that's why Jesus coming is like such a plot twist for Satan. So, he comes, he bridges the gap between heaven and earth, between the spiritual and the earthly. He bridges that gap the right way, the way that God wanted it to be bridged, not by genetically modifying creation and having like half breeds of this and half breeds of that. God created everything very specifically, right? So yeah, Genesis 6, not just about giants. It's just this glimpse into like the cosmic family that we are a part of. And I think that it's so interesting, and putting all of those pieces together made the rest of the Bible start clicking for me. It was like little pieces started to fall into place. And I mean, it's just like the coolest thing to read about. I don't know. So I'll make another one soon. Love you.